What does that need to look like before you would vote to reopen the government? Or is a commitment from the White House and Republicans enough?
No doubt.
I mean,
Mr. President is a very honest man. And if he says something, man, you could take it to the bank.
So you're saying his word is not enough?
Bankruptcy court.
His word? No.
So what do you need to see? Are you saying that Senator Schumer should not be worried about a primary challenge from you?
I mean,
All right.
no.
Let me jump in on this one. This is
what we're talking about.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
This is what we're talking about.
You have a country that is falling apart. We had a housing crisis, a healthcare crisis, an education crisis, massive income and wealth inequality, a corrupt campaign finance system, and the media says, "Oh, you're going to run. What are you going to run for?" Nobody cares. She'll run more what she wants.
So tonight, Bernie Sanders and AOC had the bright idea to hold a joint town hall on CNN to discuss the government shutdown and basically articulate the Democrat positions on the current situation. And it went exactly as you would expect, okay? Half the thing is them just rambling about nonsense and sounding like crazy idiots, of course, expressing how much they care about illegal alien healthcare and other relevant Democrat issues. But I really have to say, I don't understand the strategy behind sending these two in particular to talk about a government shutdown. Because after all, if you're the National Democrat Party, your current agenda right now is reaching a compromise. That's what shutdown and continuing resolutions are about, right? A compromise with the Republicans. If you're going to be appealing to the country, don't you want to send people out there who sound sensible and moderate? But no, the amazing idea here is let's send our two most radical members of Congress to make the other side seem like they're crazy and unreasonable. Well, as I said, that went about exactly as you would expect. So in today's video, I want to react to some of the absolute lowlights of this Bernie Sanders AOC town hall. You know, you have them admitting indeed that this is entirely, as the Republicans have been saying, by the way, all about giving free healthcare to illegal aliens. Bernie Sanders in particular was confronted with some of his past language on government shutdowns because he, like many Democrat senators, has gone out before and said government shutdowns are so bad because we care about the federal workers and all the benefits. And then, of course, the relevant question is, why exactly now then are you holding up and allowing the mass shutting down of the government, which you, of course, oppose? He is forced to answer some of these questions from voters, and the whole thing is a clown show. Yeah, them just losing their minds for about 60 straight minutes. We'll get into it, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is not only the best way to support our work, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And that said, I mean, like, you know, Republicans have been trying to claim this. We were told at first it was misinformation. Then the Democrats started to say, oh, well, yeah, illegal aliens do receive Medicaid, even though we said that wasn't true, but it's only a small amount. And then now finally we're getting the truth, right? Caitlin Collins asks AOC, do you think illegal aliens, aka undocumented immigrants in her fake phraseology, should have access to federally funded healthcare? And the answer is, of course, ladies and gentlemen, yes. Yes. There you go. Government shutdown ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen.
Can I ask you on this to follow up? Because you said that it is federal law that people, undocumented immigrants, can't get Medicare, Medicaid, the Obamacare subsidies. Do you believe that should be the law, though? Or do you think undocumented immigrants should have access to federally funded healthcare?
I believe personally that healthcare is a human right. I believe that every person should be able to go to the doctor. But I believe that right now, federal law is the federal law. And that absolutely, you know, that U.S. citizens and people who pay into our programs deserve to be covered by these programs. And I mean, once again, I do believe that the federal laws that we have on the books are appropriate and are the right ones to do.
Do you believe that that should be changed?
Pardon?
If you could choose, do you believe that the federal law should be changed?
I don't. I believe in a single-payer healthcare system where if you go in and you need a doctor, you can get the medical attention that you need.
Okay, let me just...
So yeah, she obviously does want to give free healthcare to illegals. And that's not surprising, right? This is the entire Democrat Party. Free healthcare for illegals, free fentanyl for the homeless people, et cetera, basically free everything except if you're a normal American citizen. But I like to point out further, she also goes on to state she supports the current federal law on this issue of healthcare. Okay. If that's the case, then does that mean you support the one big beautiful bill? Like, you understand, and people, of course, say she's an effective communicator. Do you hear her? She sounds dumb. She doesn't even know how to answer the question. Even Bernie is trying to bail her low IQ self out because, you guys are currently shutting down the government to reverse the current Medicaid cuts made by Big Beautiful Bill. In other words, you oppose the current federal law. And she's going to get out there and say she supports the current federal law? What does that even mean? And thirdly and finally, I'd like to point out too, even in places like Europe and Canada where they do have universal health care, generally, yes, it is only for the citizens and residents. As one example, right? If I travel to the European Union and I want to get healthcare or I need to go to a doctor's office, I actually have to buy private insurance, right? It's not just allowed to be out for anyone. I mean, I'm sure if you identify as an asylum seeker, they'll take you immediately because they're definitely woke crazies as well. But I like to point out, right, even their so-called single-payer system, at least in theory, does not protect illegal aliens. But we know, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the Democrat Party stands for, okay? They love all of these things. And, they also, I'd like to point out too, you would think to yourself, basically, like 80 to 90% probably of Americans do not support free healthcare for illegals. It's an insane position. Who is this for? Well, just so you understand, that's how scared even AOC is of the 10%, 20% of radical, violent, rabid, no king style Democrats who are just like utterly deranged on every single issue. And of course, that's who the party represents, right? They represent 20% of America, and the other 80% either have to be Republicans or just politically homeless because, the radicals, the lunatics, of course, control this show. And the situation doesn't get any better, right? Because there you have AOC explaining to the world as she's trying to make the case as to why the Democrats are the good guys in this shutdown, how she loves free healthcare for illegals. Take a listen here now as CNN's Caitlin Collins, for once, does something good and confronts Bernie Sanders on the same question of, so Democrats are currently pulling this gigantic political stunt with the government shutdown, but I thought you guys were against that. Isn't that your historical position? Because after all, remember clips like this right here?
Truth is that shutting down the government is a serious and dangerous action that we must do everything possible to prevent. Shutting down the government would impact tens of millions of our fellow Americans who would be unable to access government services. It would severely impact federal employees who would not get the paychecks they expected. It would also have a very significant impact on our armed forces. In other words, we must do everything that we can to prevent a government shutdown.
I mean, hey, that's all true, of course. The federal workers don't get paid. A lot of people are slow to receive government assistance or benefits. Largely speaking, by the way, part of the reason why Democrats more so than Republicans have historically been against government shutdowns is because of this very fact, right? Government shutdowns damage their own constituency. Most federal workers are Democrats. Most of Democrat voters, more so than Republicans, are the ones who receive welfare, government benefits, all of these different things. And generally speaking, it's the Republicans who say, well, we're more small government, right? We have no problem with shutting down the government. Oh, federal workers, those are your people. We don't even care about that, right? They're your constituents. But of course, now Bernie is forced to answer this question to his constituents. Why have you completely changed and done a 180 on this? Well, let's take a listen and hear the excuses of the Trump derangement syndrome as to why suddenly now it is all worth it. Because again, we're doing all of this. We're putting even our own constituents through suffering because we love free healthcare for illegals. Okay, take a listen.
Senator Sanders, on that front, on government shutdowns before, obviously you've said before that you believe shutting down the government is a serious and dangerous action. You said that we must do everything possible to prevent it. What would you say to people who are missing their paychecks about why it's worth it now?
Well, let me just, first of all, thank you very much for your service. And we're going to do everything we can and move as quickly as we can to make sure you get your paychecks.
Okay, well, first of all, you're not doing everything you can. You know how we know that? Because you're the ones who shut down the government. You're the ones trying to grandstand and hold everything up over ridiculous demands about, again, like illegal alien and fraudsters and all these characters receiving Medicaid. So that's obviously not true, right? Like, see, here's the thing. So you have the GOP saying, we want to pass the same budget we passed last time and many prior times, right? Vote for the clean CR, they're calling it. The Democrats are the ones coming to the table saying, no, we want this change, that change, and this change. And then if you don't do it, we won't fund the government. Inherently, who is the one trying to keep the government open? It is obviously the Republicans. Now, the Democrats can say the Republicans won't compromise with us. But again, this is a CR that Democrats already voted for in the past. It was a bipartisan budget before. It's the Democrats here who are obviously holding things up simply because, the radical left base demands they fight Donald Trump or something like that. But okay, that's what he claims. Except it doesn't go so well after CNN starts to actually bring in some of the people, some of the Bernie Sanders constituents, by the way, who claim they're so affected by this government shutdown. And both of these characters are forced to both sit there and answer it. So take a listen.
My American dream has turned into a nightmare. My family was only days away from closing on a USDA loan for our dream home. Then came news of the shutdown, and now we face uncertainty. Our lease is up, and now we have to move. The shutdown is costing us our chance to live our dream. What are you doing to end this stalemate and help restore faith in our elected officials, the people I helped to choose to guard my American dream?
We're going to do everything that we can to bring an end to this terrible shutdown, which is hurting you and which is hurting 1 million federal employees and millions of people who use federal services. But also, we have got to be cognizant that if Trump wins this fight, our healthcare system could well collapse.
So yeah, that came out pretty easily and transparently, didn't it? We've said for years, we really care about the federal workers and things like USDA loans, government benefits, government assistance programs, all of those things. And, we're really for the people, and that's why we oppose the government shutdown. However, fighting Donald Trump is more important. And that's what it's about, right? So he's basically saying to this lady right here who, I feel bad for her, actually. She was supposed to, be able to close on this loan through the USDA for the mortgage for her American dream, her first house. And the Democrats decided that they wanted to selfishly shut down the government for a political stunt. And that's all Bernie Sanders has to say, right? Because we need to beat Trump on the battle, politically. There you go. Of course, this voter as well absolutely destroys Bernie. It's kind of funny, actually, because he asked the very question, if Chuck Schumer supported this CR like several times before, what suddenly is the problem? And again, Democrats, you really thought, because they're so arrogant. They have this belief that, as Tim Walz said at all those town halls, the Republicans won't answer for what they're doing. That's why we're here in front of an echo chamber of our own voters and blah, blah, blah. And we are the ones who actually have the right ideas. And we need to go out and tell our message, sell ourselves to the American people. How much have you heard that? Democrats just need better communicators. And they need to show that they're fighting. Well, they put all of this like theory about Democrats fighting and, being more seen and heard, all this stuff, on national display tonight. And newsflash, it didn't go so well. Because actually, contrary to their arrogance, they're not right on the issues. They don't sound that intelligent. They're not convincing to people. And here's a prime example of it.
How do you think this shutdown reflects on Chuck Schumer's leadership?
Well, I think it reflects more on Mike Johnson's leadership and President Trump's leadership. This is a leadership which said it's okay to give well, how do you feel? You tell me. Think it's a good idea to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the richest people in the country and then make massive cuts to healthcare for working class people?
I think Chuck Schumer has voted for continuing resolutions 13 times in the last 4 years, and he has the opportunity to vote for one again, but he's refusing to come to the table.
I think, look.
What a disaster, man. The whole night, okay, they're just getting owned because, again, Democrats are not correct about this government shutdown, okay? They might as well not do town halls, not try to answer questions about it because it falls apart really quickly and you rapidly find out, oh yeah, the whole thing is just, again, a political stunt against Trump, and whatever they're fighting for includes things like, free healthcare for illegal aliens, right? Now, they claim they care so much about the federal workers. As a matter of fact, if you remember back to March, they threatened to shut down the government for them back then. But of course, what's happening now? The federal workers, first of all, are not only not getting paid, many of them are being mass fired and laid off. After all, Trump warned that, hey, you claim you're going to shut down the government to stop me and those from shutting down the government. Well, that's not very smart. Because guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to get rid of the federal workers, and you don't have money, so I can have the excuse and the pretense to be doing it anyway, right? And then these brilliant, genius, high IQ Democrats are basically saying, even to those people, oh, we're selling you out even though you're our top voting constituency because, again, fighting Trump and illegal alien healthcare is more important. And it doesn't get any better, okay? Now take a listen what happens as Caitlin Collins brings up the idea to AOC of, hey, are you trying to primary Chuck Schumer? Is that what is going on? And then both of them collectively lose their minds. And again, the optics here the entire night, just not that great, right? So just keep that in mind. This is the opportunity for Democrats to try to sell themselves as the sane, reasonable ones in the negotiation. And then meanwhile, here's the reality that they just showed to the entire world.
But are you saying that Senator Schumer should not be worried about a primary challenge from you?
All right.
No.
Let me jump in on this one. This is what
we're talking about.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
This is what we're
You have a
talking
country
about.
that is falling apart. We had a housing crisis, a healthcare crisis, an education crisis, massive income and wealth inequality, a corrupt campaign finance system, and the media says, "Oh, you're going to run? What are you going to run for?" Nobody cares. She'll run more towards
Nobody cares. It's the House Speaker and President Trump and the Vice President saying it.
Right.
Pardon?
Well, of course, they're saying it to deflect attention away from the real issues.
Exactly.
And here, let me tell you what the real issue is. Let's see if CNN talks about it. We're living in the richest country in the history of the world, right? All right, you tell me why we're the only nation not to guarantee health care to all people, the only nation not to guarantee paid family and medical leave, why we have a $7.25 an hour minimum wage, why we have 800,000 people sleeping out on the street, why we have a president who denies the reality of climate change, why we have oligarchs on top who have more and more power every day. Let's talk about that issue, not her own political future. She'll decide that.
Great Scott! I mean, apparently Bernie Sanders just transformed into Doc Brown from Back to the Future and had a manic meltdown on national TV. I mean, we don't know what that was. We don't know why it happened. And of course, you can see as well the repeating trend that AOC, obviously not that intelligent, and to Bernie's credit, much more intelligent, well-spoken than her, he's constantly stepping in and like bailing her out the entire town hall, to which I say, AOC, you know, you're not going to have him around forever to just like protect you. I mean, eventually you're going to have to actually have your own political career where you can seriously answer questions and not look like an idiot. You know, I think that Bernie is not very proud right now of his successor, his apprentice, who's taking over the reins. You know, she's like an even crazier and dumber version of him. But nonetheless, let's hear even more stupid, crazy Bernie moments, as apparently now, you know, this voter asks, hey, why are Republicans basically destroying you on this issue? Which is to say, why is their messaging better? Why do they know how to use social media more effectively? And the excuse that he invents, ladies and gentlemen, is not that, oh, the Republicans are right or our messaging sucks. No, it's because the tech companies and mainstream media are actually secretly working for the Republicans, is the take of Crazy Bernie as to why Democrats are losing. And guys, if they weren't just censoring social media and mainstream media on behalf of the right wing, then we would have won all the elections. Oh, really? Oh, really, Bernie? Okay, take a listen.
Republicans have been appealing to audiences, especially young people like myself, online using social media. Why does Republican messaging on social media seem so much more effective than Democratic messaging, and what can we do about it?
Well, that's a great question. I think the Republicans are effective. They have learned a lot about social media. And by the way, it doesn't hurt that their friends own all of the major social media platforms. You know, Bezos owns Twitter or X. Zuckerberg.
That's not Bezos, by the way, Bernie. You're getting kind of old there, buddy.
Owns Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. Mr. Ellison is going to own you pretty soon. I think he's going to take over CNN, not to mention CBS. So these guys have, you know, they can use algorithms now.
Zuckerberg, by the way, only just recently changed sides, I would like to note. I mean, this is the same guy who helped censor Facebook on behalf of Joe Biden in the 2020 election. But okay, according to Bernie, This is why it's happening. This is why the Democrats are losing. It's not because our messaging and our policies absolutely suck, like that one sombrero memes famously says. It's not because of our woke trans BS and our open borders and our policies of, free fentanyl for everyone and all this stuff. No. It's because of the algorithms. Okay, the algorithms are the only reason why people don't want to hear Pete Buttigieg speak for an entire hour where he calls it like the big BS bill, and somehow people think that's super funny or creative and dynamic, and then they scream about illegal alien healthcare and how Trump is, not meeting the moment or something, and then blah, 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 David Hogg, okay, bye, right? That's why. The only reason people didn't vote for Crazy Bernie is because of, the algorithms, apparently. I mean, I guess in that case, he kind of has an argument because the Democratic establishment did sort of rig the primaries against him. But yeah, in short, this is the message that Democrats displayed to the entire world basically all night long. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. And if you're still not convinced, I mean, we'll also talk about whatever apparently this is, right? AOC now speaking about pollution and climate change. No idea what this has to do even with the government shutdown, but of course, as you know, Donald Trump, he doesn't believe in climate change. He wants to work for the fossil fuel industries and all this stuff. But the Democrats, guys, AOC, wants you to have, and I quote, air that is drinkable. Yes, air that is drinkable.
Instead of talking about having air that's drinkable, rivers in rural areas were on fire because of corporations poisoning the people who lived in those areas. Poor middle-class communities getting poisoned and dumped on by corporations like Deloitte and 3M, pouring chemicals into these places. And they want to call it a Democratic priority.
Yeah, so whatever that's supposed to mean, I guess that is the new Democrat message on the environment. They want to have air that is drinkable. And according to her, the rivers were on fire. What's she even talking about? I don't know. What, this happened in India or something? Oh, okay. But apparently the rivers were on fire because corporations like Deloitte were pouring chemicals into waterways. But Deloitte is an accounting, consulting, and tax services firm. Yeah, no idea what she's talking about. Okay, apparently Deloitte Accounting Group was pouring chemicals into the... And this is the Democrat message on the government shutdown. Everybody clap it up. Clap it up. It's over for the Republicans. This is just so dynamic. It was so convincing, right? I was an American who voted for Trump, but after hearing the persuasive arguments of effective communicators of the Democrat Party, surely now I will set up a TikTok and go vote for Gavin Newsom in 2028. This is what Democrats actually believe too. If you sit and watch their podcast, it's all garbage like this. Oh, David Hogg says, I love Jasmine Crockett. She's just such an amazing communicator. We need leaders who will fight. And that's what this looks like, okay? This is apparently going to change opinion on the government shutdown. We want air that is drinkable. We want free healthcare for illegals. We want to apparently starve all the federal workers to stop Donald Trump or something. And there you have it. What a brilliant spectacle. Very persuasive, guys. All right. That said, let me know your thoughts on this town hall, quote unquote, in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.